Get ready, because today we're diving deep into one of the creepiest, most unexplained mysteries in Canadian history. Imagine this: a remote village nestled in the vast, icy wilderness, where every single person, men, women, and children, simply vanishes overnight. Not a trace, no struggle, just silence. A hot meal left on the fire. A lone sled dog frozen at its post. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, right? But this isn't fiction. This is the bewildering, eerie tale of Anjikuni village, a place where an entire community disappeared without a whisper, swallowed by the Arctic night. Get ready, because this one will definitely send shivers down your spine. It was November of 1930, a time when the Canadian Arctic was an even more unforgiving and isolated frontier than it is today. Our story begins with a seasoned fur trapper named Joe LaBelle. LaBelle was a tough, resilient man, accustomed to the brutal beauty of the Nunavut landscape. He knew these lands like the back of his hand, and he often traveled for weeks, even months, alone, relying on his instincts and knowledge to survive. He was making his way across the vast frozen tundra, a seemingly endless expanse of snow and ice, battling biting winds and the profound silence of the north. Now LaBelle was no stranger to Anjikuni village. He'd visited this small Inuit settlement many times before. He remembered it as a vibrant place, filled with the hearty, friendly laughter of hunters, the comforting crackle of bonfires, and the unmistakable warmth of life, a defiant beacon against the relentless Arctic cold. He knew the faces, he knew the dogs, he knew the rhythm of life there. But as he approached Anjikuni that fateful night, something was undeniably, chillingly wrong. The air was too still, too heavy. There was an unnerving quiet that seemed to press down on everything. No welcoming smoke spiraled lazily from the chimneys, a common sight he'd always associated with the village. No dogs barked their usual boisterous greeting, a sound that always signaled his arrival from miles away. The village, that once bustling hub of life, was utterly profoundly silent, an unsettling feeling gnawed at LaBelle, a primal sense of unease that only a man of the wilderness could truly understand. Every fiber of his being told him that something was terribly amiss. LaBelle pushed forward, his snowshoes crunching softly on the pristine snow, the only sound breaking the oppressive silence. He trudged through the village, calling out names into the frigid air, his voice swallowed by the vast emptiness. "Hello, is anyone here?" No answer came, just the echo of his own words bouncing off the desolate huts. He approached the first hut, his heart pounding in his chest, a knot forming in his stomach. Pushing open the heavy skin door, he stepped inside and froze. The scene before him was one of domestic normalcy, utterly at odds with the terrifying silence outside. A pot of stew sat on the fire, still radiating a faint warmth, as if waiting for its hungry eaters to return. Clothes were neatly folded, laid out for the next day. Rifles, essential for survival in this harsh environment, hung untouched on their racks. It looked as if the families had simply stepped out for a moment, perhaps to answer a call of nature, or to collect firewood, and never came back. He checked every single home in the village. Each one told the same unsettling story: meals half-eaten, lamps still burning, precious belongings laid out in perfect order. It was as if time had suddenly stopped, mid-stride, for everyone. But not a single person was there. The sheer absence was deafening. And then he made an even more horrifying discovery. The village sled dogs. These powerful, intelligent animals, usually so fierce and loyal, were all dead, every single one. They were found buried beneath a thin, recent layer of snow, still tied to their posts. And most gruesomely, they had starved to death. How could this be? In a village where food was clearly available, where people had seemingly just walked away, how could their vital, working dogs be left to die a slow, agonizing death from hunger? The pieces simply didn't fit, creating a terrifying mosaic of the inexplicable. Driven by a mixture of shock and sheer terror, LaBelle ran. He ran miles through the freezing darkness, his mind reeling from the impossible scenes he'd witnessed, until he reached the nearest telegraph station. Breathless, frostbitten, he relayed his incredible, disturbing account to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. An entire village, he reported, had simply vanished into thin air. Days later, when the brave officers of the RCMP finally arrived at Anjikuni, their own investigation confirmed every single, terrifying detail of LaBelle's story. They found food, tools, weapons, clothing, all in perfect, undisturbed order, but no humans. Not a single living soul. And then, they discovered something even more bizarre, something that defied all logic. The village graves. These sacred burial sites had been disturbed. The coffins lay open, empty, as if the deceased themselves had risen and walked away. Adding to the utter confusion, the snow around the village bore no footprints, no drag marks, no signs of a struggle, no indication of anyone having left or having been taken by force. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed them whole, leaving behind only the ghost of a community. How could such a thing be possible? The story of Anjikuni spread like wildfire, capturing the imaginations and chilling the spines of people across Canada and beyond. How could an entire village, an entire community, simply disappear without a trace? People grappled for answers. Some suggested the people of Anjikuni were caught in a blinding snowstorm, wandering off into the blizzard, lost forever. But experts quickly countered this idea. There would have been tracks, remains, some definitive evidence of such a tragedy. Others whispered of mass starvation or a sudden virulent disease, but there were no signs of panic, no bodies, no evidence of death. Everything pointed to a calm, almost leisurely departure that never actually happened. Then came the stranger, more sensational theories. Local indigenous communities, who had lived on this land for centuries, spoke of spirits in the sky, strange glowing lights seen the night before the disappearance. Some believed these were angry gods, perhaps displeased with the villagers. Others, reaching for more modern explanations, speculated that aliens had descended from above, abducting the entire population. There were indeed witnesses who swore they saw strange blue lights hovering over the Great Lake that night. One trapper even claimed he heard a low, throbbing, humming sound emanating from the sky. These otherworldly accounts, though difficult to verify, only deepened the mystery, painting a picture of something far beyond human comprehension. But the mystery didn't stop there. As investigators tried to follow up on these perplexing reports, something even more unsettling began to happen. The official documentation started to vanish. Reports from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, initially confirming LaBelle's account, were later denied. The RCMP claimed they had never filed an official case regarding the disappearance. Documents pertaining to Anjikuni disappeared from official archives. Witnesses who had spoken out openly suddenly changed their stories, retracting their earlier statements. It was as if someone, or something, powerful, didn't want this story told, didn't want the truth to be known. A deliberate cover-up, or simply the bureaucratic machinery of the time failing to properly document an impossible event. Regardless, the genie was out of the bottle. Newspapers had already printed the incredible tale, etched it into the public consciousness. The story of Anjikuni became a frozen legend, a haunting cold case that no one could explain. and no amount of official denial could erase it from history. Over the decades, the lure of Anjikuni has remained strong. Explorers, brave hunters, and even intrepid journalists have ventured to the remote site, hoping to uncover new clues, to find an answer where none seem to exist. But they find nothing, just an empty clearing, a barren patch of land where the snow never seems to melt completely, an eternal reminder of what once was. It's as if the very land itself remembers, holding on to the secrets of that terrible night. Some locals say that on quiet winter nights, when the wind howls just so, you can still hear faint laughter echoing across the ice, the innocent, joyful voices of children calling for home, carried on the frigid breeze. Others claim they've seen shadowy figures standing near the skeletal trees, watching travelers with dark, hollow eyes, perhaps the lingering spirits of the vanished. There's a solemn saying among the indigenous people of the region: "Don't stay too long near the lake," for the people of Anjikuni might still be looking for a way back. The north, with its vast, untamed beauty, holds many secrets, frozen beneath centuries of snow and ice. But the mystery of Anjikuni village remains perhaps the most profound, untouched, and utterly unanswered of them all. A warm meal left uneaten, sled dogs frozen in silence, and an entire village, a thriving community, erased by something the world was never meant to see, something that defies human understanding. Perhaps the people of Anjikuni were indeed taken by an unimaginable storm. Or maybe, just maybe, they were called by something older, something far more ancient and powerful, something that still moves beneath the ice, waiting for the next curious traveler to wander too far from the safety of their known world. Some mysteries, my friends, never truly melt. What do you think happened to the people of Anjikuni? Let us know your theories in the comments below.